Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. I have to take these garlands out so you can see my t-shirt. And I'll put them on after the class because I appreciate the garlands. Can you see? And I also have a button here. We did a workshop in America a few weeks ago and we made buttons. When I chant, I chant. So we'll have a little kirtan while we're waiting for everybody. And then we're going to teach you how to chant when you chant. Because you already know how to not chant when you chant. So you're going to learn today how to chant when you chant. And stop not chanting when you chant. Krishna, Govinda. I want to chant my favorite mantra. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Simante Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Prasjatya Disattarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Nityananda Gauranga Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Gauranga Kanna Abhutananda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Gauranga Advaita Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Another one. Another garland to take off. I was telling before I have to show my shirt, so I'm putting the garlands back on after the class. Okay? I told him my name is Vanamali, so he's just making sure I live up to my name today. So 3 garlands. Yeah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sandhyavadi. So this morning I was actually giving a class to the Bhakti Shastri students based out of Faridabad. And they wanted me to talk about japa, and I thought of an example I will share with you. So imagine you start a business, and this business is going to support you. And so you have to be able to make enough money to support yourself, to pay all your bills, pay your mortgage, pay your car, put food on the table, put your kids through college and like that. So you're a little concerned because if you don't run the business well, you're not going to make enough money. And if you don't make enough money, you're not going to be able to live properly, right? So you're very careful how you run the business, because if you don't run it well, it's going to be a big problem. So I was thinking, our life is like that. Our business is, we have to pay the bill of Krishna Prema. So we're trying to achieve Krishna Prema. And so one of the main ways we do that is through our japa every day. And we cannot afford to not chant good japa, because if we don't, we're not going to get Krishna Prema. So we have a certain length of time in our life. And so I think this rhetorical question is good to ask ourselves, do I have time to waste on bad japa? And when you think about it, you realize the path to loving Krishna is going to be long and somewhat difficult. And it's already long and difficult, so I don't need any more problems on the way. I don't need any more obstacles, right? I have to get there as directly and as quickly as I can. So therefore, I can't afford to just stop, stay overnight, go to a movie. I just have to keep going. So the same way in our life, can we really afford to chant bad rounds? And the answer is no, we can't, because we need every mantra to be good if we're going to develop love of Krishna. And every time it's not good, or every day our rounds are not good, that's a problem, because we cannot afford bad japa. Just like the businessman cannot afford to have a bad week, a bad month, he won't be able to pay his bills. We cannot afford bad japa. So I think that's a very important realization to take away from this workshop. You agree? Yeah. Yes. It can help you a lot when you're chanting your japa every morning, and sometimes you're having difficulty. Just ask yourself, can I afford these bad rounds? And the obvious answer is no, I can't. So as you can see, my t-shirt says, when I chant, I chant. And this phrase came from my personal experience and the experience of other devotees, that when we chant, sometimes we're not chanting even though it looks like we're chanting. We're actually doing something else. I think we talked about this enough yesterday, and that we can understand. What we mean is not that you're not chanting physically, but you're not chanting in your heart, you're not connected, and your mind is somewhere else. And Ayurveda says something interesting. You are actually not, according to Ayurveda, you are not necessarily sitting in a temple in, what is this area called? Vishalnagar? Vishalnagar. You are not necessarily sitting in a temple in Vishalnagar. How is that? Because Ayurveda says you are where your mind is. That's where you are. So if your mind is not in Vishalnagar, you're not here. If your mind is in Vrindavan, you're in Vrindavan. If your mind is in Delhi, you're in Delhi. If your mind is in New York, you're in New York. Wherever your mind is, that's actually where you are. So we can be chanting Hare Krishna, and it looks like we're chanting, and our mind is somewhere else, and so we're not actually at Krishna's lotus feet, we're at someone else's lotus feet, or someone's feet who are not, we're somewhere, I don't know. If you're at someone else's lotus feet, that's also good. Nityananda's feet, yeah, all right. And here's something really paradoxical and ridiculous to think about. And it is one of the places we are at when we're chanting is just, we're just thinking about what we have to do in our life. And what's so paradoxical about it is that the highest perfection of chanting japa is to be absorbed in Krishna Lila. To see the Lila. Of course, you can't see the Lila until you can see the Lila. But to be absorbed in the Lila, this is the chanting of the pure devotee. And not only that, further advanced is that not only do they see the Lila, but they're actually acting within the Lila while they're chanting. Could you imagine that? You're chanting and you're like in some Lila with Krishna, Radha. Wow, amazing, right? So here's the paradox. So often when we're distracted by what we're doing in our life, and we're thinking about all the things we have to do, even if it's seva. It's centered around us, right? I have to do this today. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And I'm chanting Krishna, but I'm thinking about what I have to do in 3 hours. So I'm not here in Vishal Nagar in the Sri Nityananda Gaurachandra Nita Gaurachandra temple. I'm in my office right now. Although my body looks like it's in the temple, my mind's in the office, and I'm thinking about all these things I have to do. Correct? Sahi hai? Sahi hai or nahi hai? So here's the supreme paradox of this. And this, of course, as we know, when we talk about distraction, this is the main distraction. It's just we're thinking about our problems and things we have to do, how we're going to do it. We're thinking about next week. We're going to go here and go there. Or whatever you're thinking about. But it's all centered on us, isn't it? Like me and what I have to do and my problems and why did this have to happen and I want this. And so whose Leela are we meditating on? It's kind of like the Ahamkara Leela. Instead of meditating on Krishna Leela, we're meditating on our Leela while chanting Hare Krishna. That's sad. Don't you think that's sad? I mean, we're meditating on our Leela all day. You would think at least for 2 hours we would stop thinking about ourselves, especially because we're chanting Hare Krishna. But sometimes, even during that 2 hours, we're thinking more about ourselves than Krishna. Isn't it? It's a real paradox. So, when we say, when I chant, it means that time when you chant, it's you and it's Krishna. Not you in relation to all the things you have to do today, but it's you in relation to Krishna, who he is, Namarupa Guna Lila. Sounds easier than it is to do, right? But I want to facilitate now a meditation where we're going to chant. We're going to follow this principle. When I chant, I chant. And so what are we going to do? We are going to try right now to see if we can actually chant and not be absorbed in anything else. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to have to practice a little bit. And so what we want to do, or what I would suggest doing or ask you to do is, I want you to meditate when we begin our chanting that Krishna is in his name. And you don't have to realize this, because you can't realize this until you're pure enough to realize it. But you can understand it. And you can approach the name as Krishna. So that's what I'm asking you to do. We're going to be chanting and we're going to be thinking, Krishna is here in his name. And as we said last night, there's you and there's Krishna and there's a relationship, right? It's not fully manifest, but when you chant, there's a relationship. It's you are chanting. Krishna is manifest in your chanting. He's present there, so it's just you and him. There's nothing else going on. So this is what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to meditate as we're chanting, and we're going to be praying to become pure devotees while we're chanting to Krishna. But we're going to meditate on that all that exists during this japa session is me and the holy name in relationship. There's nothing else. So our life, off. Our worries, off. Our minds, off. The only thing is the holy name. I am praying to the holy name, and Krishna's there. And that's it. That's all there is. And that's what it means when I chant, I chant. Now, is there any guarantee you're going to do this or do it well? We can only try. But I can suggest that just keep reminding yourself that Krishna is here right now. And I have a relationship with the holy name. If you need to remind yourself, if you lose your focus on this, remind yourself. And now that it's just you and Krishna, you can tell Krishna whatever you want to tell him. And how do you tell him? Through your heart, through your prayer. Krishna, please, blank. You fill in the blanks. Krishna, please. So Krishna's there, nobody else, just us. Or you can just appreciate. You can just chant and appreciate. Krishna has appeared in the holy name. This morning I was saying something. I'll mention this because it'll help us. That when devotees do puja, like you remember last night I was saying, when devotees pray, nobody says, how do I pray and hear and control my mind? No one asks that question. They don't ask that question about puja. Prabhu, when you do puja, how do you focus on your deity? I've never heard anyone ask that question because it's natural, right? If you go on the altar, if you're a Brahmin and you go on the altar, it's like, oh, I'm on the altar, I'm with Krishna. And we say, we want you to bathe the deities. Oh, it's like, it's a focus, it's a meditation, right? Why is it such a meditation, whereas when we chant, it's not such a meditation? And why do devotees ask questions like, Prabhuji, can I listen to a class while I chant japa? What kind of meditation is that? All right, I'll ask you a question. When you go to college and your teacher's giving a class, can you listen to another class in your headphones? Like that's a stupid question. Like, why would you do that? When my friend comes over for lunch, Prabhuji, is it okay if I listen to a class while they're there, while we're talking? I'm like, why would you want to do that? So somehow or other, we've got this idea that the holy name isn't Krishna. But we know the deity is Krishna, at least theoretically, so we just do better with the deity in our focus. Of course, you can listen to a class while you're doing deity worship because you're not chanting. But you know what I'm saying. When it comes to deity, it's like, yeah, that's the deity. So I don't have this, my mind, and I'm not thinking about my shopping list and my office work. I'm just focused on the deity. So I think part of the problem is we don't accept that when I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna's there and just a deity is of sound. It's a more subtle element, but it's a deity. Nonetheless, it's a deity. You can have a deity of sound. If you have a deity of wood or metal or stone, why can't you have a deity of sound? They're all material elements. It's just subtle, right? So that's part of the problem. You agree? Yeah, it's a noticeable difference. So if we can understand, we have this deity, and we're going to chant now, and this deity is going to be there, and we're going to be, it's just us and the deity, like you would be just you and the deities when you do puja. So you want to try that? Just remind yourself, this name is Krishna. I'm with Krishna. I can open my heart. I can pray to Krishna. He's there. It's just me and Krishna. When we chant, what are we going to do? Whose Leela are we going to meditate on? Vrindavan Leela or office Leela? Vrindavan Leela or shopping list Leela? Vrindavan Leela or to-do list Leela? See what you can do. I want to tell you a story that'll help you. You may have heard that the first deities in ISKCON were Jagannath deities, and they were found at an Indian import store, kind of like people would buy these things and put them on their, just put them as decorations. So Lord Jagannath came to America as a decoration for somebody's dining room or something. But because they came from India, the devotees thought, if anything comes from India, it's transcendental. Seriously, that's how we thought. India is like Krishna conscious country. So if it's Indian, we should just do it. So it's like it said, made in India. So Malati got these deities. She had no idea what they were. And she said, Prabhupada, what is this? It's made in India, what is it? And Prabhupada paid obeisances. He said, oh, Jagannath has come. She only got Jagannath, and he said, well, was anybody else? And she said, yeah, there were 2 others. So Prabhupada said, get those. And then he said, oh, yeah, Prabhupada took it that Jagannath wanted to come. So he said, is there anybody who could carve them larger, like this size? And Malati's husband, Shyamasundar, could do it. So he carved Jagannath deities. So this is maybe like 2 years after the movement started, something like 2 years, with people in the West who have absolutely zero experience with deity worship. For a Westerner, deity worship is the most awkward, foreign, unusual thing imaginable. Like that there's actually a person in this wood, and you're going to bathe this person, you're going to give them mouthwash, you're going to wake them up, put them to sleep, feed them. It's like, okay. All right. Yeah. We had absolute faith in Prabhupada. So if Prabhupada said, this is Krishna, it's Krishna. And Prabhupada said, this is Krishna, you have to bathe him, dress him like that. In the beginning, no one, like if we told that to you, you would say, yeah, because you grew up with that. So it's not like a big shift for you. For you to become devotees, culturally, there's very little shift you make, if any. For a Westerner to become a devotee, it's all cultural shifts. Everything, the dress, the food, the deities, the kirtan. We didn't grow up with any of this. Zero. So it's like huge, huge shifts, which is why in the West sometimes devotees say, and we're doing preaching programs, don't wear dhoti, don't wear this, that, because nobody's used to it. It's like they have to jump through so many hoops to become devotees. They have to go from pasta to, spicy dal, and a lot of people like it. They like Indian, they like that, but it could be difficult. So that's like a huge shift. Now Prabhupada said, this is Krishna, worship him as Krishna. And so that's what the devotees did. And then gradually the devotees understood that Krishna is there through the service. So how this relates to us is, if I tell you Krishna's in the holy name, you'll say, yeah, if that's true, how is it possible that I'm bored or I fall asleep or I'm distracted? Then I say, okay, just as these devotees could not see Jagannath in the deity, but on Prabhupada's word, they treated Jagannath as Krishna, and thereby were able to realize that Jagannath is Krishna because they had that attitude. We can accept that Krishna is in his name, even if we can't realize it, treat his name as him, and chant that way, and gradually we will realize it. That's all we can do. Prabhupada said something really interesting, because whenever Prabhupada said Krishna and his name are not different, my intelligence would go, I can't understand. Like, how can a sound be a thing? How can a sound be a person? So the intelligence, I could never, it's like, I could explain it to people, but even when I was explaining it, I'd be thinking, that doesn't make any sense. If you say water, you'll just get thirsty. But if you say Krishna, he's there. Okay. That's the philosophy. I can repeat it. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in terms of our experience, does it? A person is fully present in a sound? Like, how does that work? And then you hear things like, there is no difference between Krishna's personal presence and Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm thinking, well, if I had a choice, I'd take Krishna's personal presence, wouldn't you? And Prabhupada's saying, no different. No, if you fall asleep reading Bhagavatam, Krishna walk in your house, you'll fall asleep also when you see him. You won't realize him. So then I came across something Prabhupada said. And Prabhupada said, you cannot intellectually understand that Krishna is non-different from his name, form, guna, and lila. You cannot intellectually understand it. It's not going to make sense to your intellect. A sound is a thing. And you chant Hare Krishna, and I go, how was that? And you're like, it's okay. And that's supposed to be Krishna, and Krishna is only okay. And so all we can do, Prabhupada said, you have to accept it in theory. That's all we can do. Krishna is in his name. And I am now going to chant, we're all going to chant, and we're going to treat Krishna in his name as Krishna. And we're just going to meditate on, it's just me and Krishna and nothing else. So when I chant, that's all we're going to do is chant. There's nothing else going on. You do not exist anymore. Your life is dead for the next 5 minutes. Can you kill your life for the next 5 minutes? Can you kill your leelas for the next 5 minutes? Your leela, dhyana leela, aham dhyana leela? Or how do you say I in what's I in Hindi? May. May, ahankara, leela, bas. Punch minute, ek punch minute. If you want to meditate on your leela after 5 minutes, you have my permission. You can make that decision. But at least for 5 minutes, we're going to meditate on my relationship with Krishna. Right? It's me and Krishna, there's a relationship. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Okay? If you forget, just remind yourself. It's just me and Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama. Okay. So if you did that well, and you weren't thinking about anything other than just trying to focus on chanting as best you can, then that's really good. And that's the way you're supposed to do it every day. So, just as you would give your full attention to a guest, when we chant, we're meant to give our full attention to Krishna. And don't you think it's nicer to give our attention to Krishna than to give attention to all our anxieties and worries? And yes? So, if you were able to do this well, you definitely experience this is better than thinking about my life, right? And if you weren't able to do it well, just keep trying to push your life out of the way, because your life is an interference to your meditation, because you're not meditating on yourself. This is not Soham Asmi meditation, right? We don't do that meditation. I am that. If I am God, then yes, if you meditate on all your problems, you're meditating on God, right? But we're not God, so, right, okay? So now I want to do another japa session, and what we just did now is fundamental to any kind of japa we chant. So I want to do another one, and this is going to be really important for us. When we say, Krishna, please engage me in your service, when we're chanting, or when we feel that, or when we're conscious that that's what the Maha Mantra means, and we're chanting in that mood, what I'd like you to know or understand is we're not just praying for service, we're not even just praying for pure devotional service. We are praying to realize that we are servants. And you might think, I know I'm a servant, so why would I pray to realize I'm a servant? I already know. We know in our head. Have you ever thought about doing something for your personal enjoyment that was not devotional service? Has that ever happened to you? Okay, the real question is, has it ever not happened to you like 1,000,000 times a day? What's happening if I think, oh, that'd be nice, I like that. What's happening? What's actually happening fundamentally is at that moment I forgot I was a servant of Krishna. My identity as a servant became covered, and I thought I could enjoy that. Because if My identity is I'm a servant. I would never think of, let me have that, I want that, that'll be good. Right? Because if I'm a servant, then everything I have and want is for him. Yes? So the bhav, the emotion, the identity of servant is one of the meanings of this prayer, Krishna, please engage me in your service. It's the whole problem of material existence is we think we're something other than a servant. Some kind of master, little God, little controller, little enjoyer. In pure devotional services, Krishna's God, I'm not. He's the enjoyer, I'm not. And so we may understand in our head, yes, I'm servant, but practically, do we have the ego of a servant all the time? Do we? Do we ever have the ego of enjoyer? Every time we think of sense gratification, we have forgotten, I'm servant. You say, no, I didn't forget, I know the shloka, Jivera Surup Hoy Nit. I didn't forget that shloka. You actually forgot as an identity that you're a servant at that moment if you thought of enjoying something independent of Krishna. So, let us pray now. Oh, well, maybe before we pray, all the ramifications of the problems of material existence are byproducts of not realizing I'm a servant. That's where all the problems come from. The body we have, and all the material attachments and everything that is blocking us on our spiritual progress is a consequence of thinking anything but I am servant. We should say feeling, identifying with something other than I am servant. So now, let's chant japa in connecting to this meaning that Krishna, please engage me in your service, but specifically praying to Krishna to help me realize that I'm servant, to help me understand my position as a humble servant, to help remove this spirit of I am controller, master, enjoyer in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just servant. That ego, I'm praying now in this japa session for the ego, this tiny little ego of I'm servant. Dasosmi. I have to tell you something. Why this is so important. You know, that's what Bhakti Siddhanta used to say, Dasosmi, when his disciples would pay obeisances. Did you know that? Dasosmi, Bengali, right? Bengali. Daso, I am your das. Asmi, Dasosmi, I am your servant. He said something amazing. Would you like to hear it? This is so amazing, you could faint. So just tell the person next to you, if I faint, catch me. What happens if everyone faints and I'm just sitting here and the only one who didn't faint? What do I do? You have 911 in India? Yeah. Is there another emergency number? 100. Give me my phone, just in case. I hope you appreciate it as much as I appreciate it. Now, we have seen in the history of our movement very nice devotees. Everybody likes them. They do nice service. And because of their nice service and their Krishna consciousness, they get promoted. And we have seen some devotees got promoted a little too high. Is that me? Some devotees get promoted a little too high. In other words, they get a little too much respect. They get a little too many resources, and they get bewildered by it. That is like, it's so common we don't even really need to talk about it. But you don't really understand a person until you put them in a position where they have lots of power. Because it's easy to misuse power. It's easy to get bewildered by it, yes? So you're down here, you have no power, no position, you're fine. We elevate you, all of a sudden, you're in charge of 2,000 people and crores of rupees every day and people serving you. That's a whole different thing. It's very easy to get bewildered. So it is said, you can't really understand the greatness of a person until you give them power and see how they use that or misuse that power. So this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said. Well, let me just say one thing. Let me be detailed about it. Some of our leaders, especially our gurus, they had wealth, they had fame, they had resources, and they couldn't handle it. They weren't advanced enough, and they got bewildered by it, misused it, and so forth. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something beautiful. You want to hear it? Yeah. He said, if I realize that I'm a servant of Krishna, this is not if I understand. If I realize that I'm a servant of Krishna, no amount of wealth, no amount of fame, no amount of followers, no amount of resources can ever budge me from that realization that I am just an insignificant servant of Krishna. What is he saying? He's saying, when you realize, you get rid of that ego, that there's any sense of I'm enjoyer or controller or master. When you get rid of that ego, you could be given the whole world and you'll still feel like an insignificant servant. Isn't that amazing? Like, you can't get bewildered. He said, because nothing would ever budge you from that ego of I'm servant. It doesn't matter what happens. Could we get budged from the ego of I'm insignificant servant? It's possible, right? And therefore, in the Christian world, they developed this concept that when you become a leader, you become a bigger servant. The bigger the leader, the more you're a servant, because there's more people to serve. Rather than there's more people below you, there's more people above you. Right? Sometimes we think, I want to be a leader because then I can control people. So I'm hoping someday I'll start my own temple and become temple president. Or someday I'll become guru. And then I'll have people I can control. You give a pure devotee 1 billion disciples and 1 billion rupees every second. Nothing. Not bewildered. Because he cannot forget, I am a little humble servant. It doesn't matter. You give him anything, it doesn't matter. So this is what we're praying for. We're going to pray during this Japa session, Krishna, please help me realize that I am an insignificant servant. This is my eternal constitutional position. I'm not master, controller, enjoyer. I'm simply servant. Now, I know this scares some of you, because if you think of it materially, you're thinking, well, that's a bad deal. After I rise to the top, I'm still only nothing. And my whole goal was to get to the top so I could enjoy being something, right? That's the material side, right? And so we're thinking, if we think of servant in a material way, we'll think, I don't really want to be an insignificant servant. That doesn't sound like fun at all. I want to be the CEO of Google. And you have Google here in Pune? Yeah, I want to be the CEO of Google in Pune. I want to get on all the best, podcasts. I want to give a TEDx talk. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be like an insignificant servant. That's horrible. They'll probably make me clean the toilet if I have to do that. Right? That's the material thinking. But the spiritual thinking is, that's my aspiration, because I know that's my eternal position. So that is self-realization. And pure devotional service cannot be had without this bhav, without this identity. And that's why we want it so much. So that's the prayer, that's the mood. So let's see if we can enter that mood while we're chanting and just be praying, understanding when we say, Krishna, please engage me in your service, the fundamental aspect of that prayer is help me realize the ego of servant, not the ego of master and enjoyer and controller. Okay? So I was thinking we could meditate on this and chant like 40 or 50 rounds, and we'll just cancel breakfast. Is that okay? Prabhu, I'm a servant, but not that much a servant. All right. I'm not going to tell you how long we're going to chant. And don't worry about it, because if you just get absorbed, and if you get absorbed in praying to be a servant, you're going to have a big realization that you need to pray for this realization, like all the time, constantly, Kirtaniya Siddhahari, because I don't realize this. I'm even resistant to it. And so it's very easy to chant in this mood because we need this, and we just need to ask Krishna for this. Okay? Maybe not 40, maybe 35. Is that okay? 39 and a half? Okay. Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare 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 Okay. Dinanath, do you have my bag, black bag? Somebody have my black bag? Oh, okay. I want to play something. It's on my phone. Is there a way to play it on the sound system? Through a cord or through Bluetooth? Would we play it through... I want to play a recording on my phone. Can you play from my phone through the sound system? You need Bluetooth or you have a cable? Hold on. I can adjust it, yeah. It can because I bring this. You should have these in your temple. So I'm going to play a guided meditation, but I just wanted to get some feedback from you before I play this. This is a guided meditation that will lead us into another Japa session. But I just wanted to ask, did anyone want to share their experience from either of these two? Yes. May I have a microphone for him?
Hare Krishna.
I'm
I
listening.
took one step back when you said I'm a servant for Krishna. I thought I'm not qualified first. So
Okay.
I went a step back and asked to Krishna and Balram whether I'm qualified to be servant of the servant of the servant. And if you deem find me fit, kindly engage me in their service wherever you find me fit. Because right now I don't see myself qualified to be directly servant of Krishna. Because even if I approach any organization like Microsoft or Google, directly they will not appoint me as a CEO of that company. They may ask me to join at some level and then upgrade me later based on my qualification and performance. So I took that step.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
How did that go for your japa? How was
I'm
it?
waiting for the answer because Krishna is considering my request.
As long as you have the desire,
Yes.
that's a beautiful desire, so that's wonderful. Thank you. Now, I may not be qualified to be a servant, but constitutionally I am. So, will Krishna accept me as a servant when I have the ego of servant? Yes. Of course, he accepts our service now. But full acceptance comes when I fully realize I'm a servant. And it's so interesting. Every problem that we have materially is connected to that ego that I'm master, enjoyer, and controller. So every problem would be solved. Or we say we wouldn't have the problem in the first place if we knew we were a servant. Right? So it's an interesting equation that every attachment we have is because I think I'm enjoyer in some way. Every lust, anger, greed, envy would be dissolved if I had the pure ego of servant. And that's the goal. Because prema means I'm insignificant servant of Krishna. That's the full manifestation of that realization happens at prema. And so our goal is to get to prema, and therefore on the path, when we're chanting, we can pray for those things that would give us prema or lead us on the path, or pray to rid ourselves of those things that get in the way of prema, right? Which is Krishna, smash this false ego. With every mantra, destroy it, pulverize it, grind it. You can pray like that. Chisel my ego, it's so big. And when you chant like this, the beautiful thing about it is you realize how big the ego is and how much chanting it's going to take to bring it to its eternal constitutional position. And it makes it easier to chant, because after you finish your 16 rounds, you will realize my ego is still pretty big. I think I need to keep chanting. And so this idea of Kirtaniya Sadahari, comes from this mood that I don't have full realization that I'm a servant of Krishna. I don't have prema. I need to keep chanting. Of course, when you have prema, you'll also want to chant all day because of taste. But now the desire to chant all day can come from just knowing that I need it, right? And that's why I was saying earlier, can we really afford to chant bad japa, considering how much we need it? You know, right? Let's say you have a medicine, and this medicine is like really important for you. And there's different grades of medicine. Some are watered down, some don't use good ingredients. Can you afford to take a bad medicine if you have a critical illness? You can't. We're critically ill materially, right? We can't afford to take a watered down medicine. It's not enough. So when you start taking this medicine of Harinam and it starts working, you begin to realize, I need to take a lot of this medicine all the time. I can't afford to take any kind of compromised, watered down medicine without the best ingredients. Right? Hare Krishna. Yeah. So it makes it easier to chant back then. Okay, who else would like to share? Any realization? It can be also you can share a struggle as well. It doesn't have to be like that everything was beautiful. Maybe you tried and you couldn't think of it. Yes, can we pass the mic back there?
Hare Krishna. So, as we were chanting, we were saying that mind keeps on running. So, again, as you were saying, it went in the mood of I'm in the enjoyer, like again me myself.
Yeah.
But again, as you were saying, we have to remind, yes, I am the servant and I am serving Krishna by chanting. So, if I have to be servant, then I have to chant nicely and I have to please Krishna.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. In case you forgot, I just want to remind you, you're a servant of Krishna. How many times a day do you forget that? Yeah. So the mind is wandering because we're identifying with our life and all the things that are important. As you progress in devotional service, it's going to be much easier to just focus on chanting because it becomes more important, more essential. Your ego goes down, becomes easier to focus on Krishna and easier not to focus on yourself. Because anytime a devotee says, my biggest problem is controlling my mind, what does that mean? Controlling my mind. I'm thinking of horror movies. No, we don't mean, I'm thinking of killing somebody. We don't mean these things. Simple things. I'm just thinking of things I have to do. Right? Kind of innocent, but completely inappropriate for japa. Because who is the center of your universe? We are. Wherever you go, you're still in the center of your universe, right? So if you go to Mumbai, then who's the center of your universe in Mumbai? You are, right? But for devotees, Krishna's supposed to be the center, right? And we're the servant, right? So it takes time to adjust. But if you do these meditations with your chanting, it'll happen quite quickly. And it'll make it easier. Here's another thing. I want to scare you a little bit. And it's just a fact, and it's a scary fact. And we understand the principle of samskara, that as you do something over and over again, it builds a certain proclivity or inclination for that activity and a certain way of thinking. And it's just, samskara is really just another. This is a Sanskrit word for habit, more or less, right? So the more you do something, the more it becomes unconscious. So you can do it unconsciously. And that's what they call unconscious competence. If you drive a car, you don't really have to think much how to drive it. But you had to think about how to drive it when you were learning. But after a while, because you're doing it every day, you can drive it unconsciously. And sometimes you can drive your car to work and not even notice that you drove it. Did that ever happen? Like, how did I get here? Because it's unconscious, Well, I don't know about here, but in the West, you have big, wide open roads, and it's really easy to just like forget that you're driving, and you arrive there, and you're like, how did I get here? So there's good news and there's bad news, and this is really important. If I am trying to improve my japa, doing what we're teaching here or what any other way that you can do to learn or realize how to improve your japa, and you do it every day, you're going to start to develop a habit. And good japa is going to become your habit, and it's going to become normal. Wouldn't that be good? Like, wouldn't it be good that you've developed such good japa habits that you actually don't know how to chant bad japa? Because it's like, for example, let's say you're like a really good artist, and I say, could you draw me a bad painting? And you think, I don't know how to draw a bad painting. If you're a really good writer, can you write a really bad story? You know, go up to Shakespeare. Hey, Shakespeare, let's have some fun. Can you write a bad story? I was like, I don't know how to do that. You go to a musician, you know. Can you like play really bad, poorly on the sitar and make it sound horrible? I was like, I don't really know how to do that. And he can play beautifully with his eyes closed because he's practiced so much. So wouldn't it be nice that you actually, even if you tried to chant bad japa, you wouldn't know how to do it? That would be amazing, right? But that's actually what happens with devotees as they progress and they take their japa seriously. They've imbibed these japa habits so deeply, it's become a samskara, and that's just how they do it. It's unconscious now. Everything that we're teaching here, plus more, is unconsciously programmed into devotees who do japa well. They don't have to think about it. It's just when they pick up their beads, that's what they do. Right? Just like Ravi Shankar, when he picks up the sitar, he just plays it really well. So that's good news, right? And I think of anything I said, I think this should concern you the most. That you can actually solve this japa problem by just working to employ these principles day after day, and it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And at some point, it just becomes the way you chant. And chanting badly will be very rare. Poor japa will be very rare if you practice good japa. 1 second. So we have a problem, and you probably guessed the problem, and the problem is the opposite of what I just said. If we don't chant well, and we do it every day, year after year after year, then what you just said is why it happens. I'm trying to chant as a servant, I forget. My mind goes off. Why? Because that's the way I chant every day. So it's a habit, it's just natural. So, can I scare you? Every bad round has programmed you to chant another bad round. Every good round has programmed you to chant another good round. If that doesn't shake you up, I give up. I retire. That should be like, oh my God, that is so true. I should be frightened of chanting bad rounds because, you know, for example, the procrastinator, I'll do it tomorrow. Does tomorrow ever come? No, tomorrow is eternal, right? What is the problem with the procrastinator? It always seems easier tomorrow, right? Chanting good japa is difficult. I'll start tomorrow. Here's the problem. It's actually harder tomorrow because you just went another day of creating improper samskaras. So every time you say you think it's going to be easier tomorrow, you're fooling yourself. Because why would it be easier a day after you do it wrong? Why would doing another day of wrong make it easier the next day? It can only make it harder, right? So the sooner you try to improve your job, the more you focus on it, what's going to happen is it's going to get easier for you. It's going to become more natural to chant good rounds because you started habituating yourself to chanting this way. I chant at this time of day. I don't chant, in the middle of a mall, going for a walk in a mall, chanting and shopping. I don't chant and talk. You develop these habits. So it's quite easy just to chant well. It's just the way you do it. And it's also easy to not chant well because it's just the way you do it. So if you don't do it well, it's easy not to do it well. And if you do it well, you practice doing it well, it's easy to do it well. It's that simple. So, do you love yourself? Raise your hand if you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, we have windows we can throw you out. That will end your life immediately. That should satisfy you. Now, okay, love yourself, maybe, I don't know if everybody's ready for that. But if you want to be kind to yourself, you really want to take care of yourself, don't you think you should really try to chant good rounds? It'll make it easier for you to chant every day. It'll make it a greater experience for you, and it will help you tremendously. Yes? You agree with that? You like if you're kind on yourself, make it easy on yourself. So every day you think you're making it easy on yourself when you don't try to chant good rounds, because it seems easier not to try, doesn't it? If I have to try, I have to sit up and stay awake and pray and meditate and connect with the meaning. That takes energy, Prabhu. And it's just easier to just chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. You get your clicker, it's even easier because then you can just go anywhere with the clicker. Get on the bus, go shopping. I only used the clicker once in my life, and I chanted 192 rounds that day, and I thought, something's wrong with this clicker, This is not the way to chant, It was just wherever I was going, just completely spaced out. Krishna, Krishna, It didn't stop all day, but I didn't think I chanted one good bead the whole day, and I had this enormous number of rounds, So, that was easy. That day was easy, because wherever I go, So we think, it takes energy to chant, it would be easier not. But then, if you don't put in the effort, what are you left with? You're left with these bad habits, and it's actually more difficult. And so maybe eventually to correct yourself is a little difficult, it takes effort. But eventually when you correct yourself, then it's easier because it becomes natural. It's just the way you do it. Now, I have a question for you. Do you have a certain tolerance level for disorganization? If it gets disorganized to this point, is it at that point you just say, that's enough, I have to clean my office, my room, my kitchen. There's a threshold. We all have different thresholds, right? Your threshold is 1 dirty cup in the sink. Your threshold is 436 dirty cups in the sink. But there's a threshold when you just say, I got to clean the kitchen, I got to clean my room, I have to clean my office, right? Why don't we make a threshold? When our japa, it goes down to a certain level, we say, that's it, I have to go up. Using this example, you will realize that sometimes your japa goes way below where it should go, and you don't do anything. Yes or yes? Yes. What I would suggest to you is to try to see if you can create an internal threshold. So when your japa goes below a certain point, it stops and you push it back up because you've developed that habit. So you can't chant bad japa anymore. You've made it impossible to chant bad japa because you have a threshold and you won't go below it because you know it's bad for you, it's bad for your relationship with Krishna, it's offensive to Krishna, you catch it. So that's the problem, isn't it? The problem is we go below the threshold of good, we let it go bad, and there's 430 dirty dishes in the sink, and we're like, whatever, it's too much trouble to clean them, That's bad, right? Yes? That is called laziness, Prabhus, Matajis. Laziness is another word a synonym for tamaguna, in case you didn't know. Yeah. We have to be sattvic. Yes, you had a question? Yeah, I'm going to give her the microphone. Or you want to share? Okay, question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. When I started of my Krishna conscious journey, the Japa was really a treat because it used to give the taste. And one round used to go for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and it was really nice. But later, it was told that we have to go for quantity. The quantity raised, I deliberately decreased the quality because it was not possible. I was not getting the taste. So I asked, and it was like, ki quality will follow, but you have to follow the quantity. And right now, I have the quantity, but I don't have the quality. Today morning, when I was trying, so as you told, I have programmed myself to destroy my quality. And now it's very difficult to go to quality. And when I discussed yesterday with my daughter about this, about our Japa session, she's 16 years old. She told me, Mama, now you are telling about quantity. Before you were telling about quality. How I'm going to manage both? Because I have got studies. So this is the amalgamation of my and her question. Is that first I destroyed my quality. Now I have quantity, but I don't have quality. And my daughter is asking what I should do. Again, where I started, a quality and a quantity. So
the answer is easy. Do both. And you figure out how to do that. I'm going to give you an assignment. You figure out how. They're not mutually exclusive at all. But, okay, I will tell you something. If you chant quality, the result should be quantity. Because, have you ever overeaten before in your life? Yeah, we all have overeaten. Why did we overeat? Because it tasted bad? No, because it was like... So, I always say focus on quality because quantity will come. I don't let people feed me things I like too much because I'll eat too many of them. Except Japa. We have a goal. We want to do both. But it doesn't mean that doesn't mean quality means slower necessarily. You ever eat fast because it's good? Yeah, look at. So some people, because they have quality, will chant faster.
in my case, it becomes like when I do it faster, then it becomes difficult to manage. It becomes difficult to manage the emotion. So both I'm not able to manage. Hearing and emotions, difficult.
Be able to multitask? It's too much? Two things at once? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not able to do that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to propose that you are able to do it. And I will propose it's one thing, not two. Because if you're hearing, that means you're present. That's what when Prabhupada said hear, it's another way of saying be present. Because if you don't hear, your mind is somewhere else. Be present to your chanting. That means you're conscious right now. And if you're hearing and you're conscious, that means Krishna's right there, right? Now, if Krishna were in front of you, would you say, and Krishna says, what do you want? Would you say, well, I can't see you and pray because they're two different things. So I can only see you. But if you go away, I'll pray. You wouldn't say that. It wouldn't make any sense. But so that's what you're saying. Krishna, I can't see you in your holy name and pray to you at the same time. Where I would say, that is how you pray. Because you're conscious of Krishna, he's there. Oh, Krishna's here, I'm hearing, I'm present. Oh, Krishna's here. Now I can ask him something. So it's more the same thing than it is two separate. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think it's when we have this problem, I think we're unnecessarily complicating something that's actually one thing, and even more emotion comes forward because you realize Krishna's there. Sometimes I'm chanting, and by Krishna's mercy, I'm chanting, and I realize that Krishna is present. And then, I'm very present to the holy name. I'm very present to Krishna's presence. And then after like 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, Krishna's present. I can ask him something. It's just like it's like an epiphany. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'm feeling Krishna's presence. And after 5 minutes, like, oh, Krishna's here. This is a good time to ask. It's like, Mahatma's here. I have a question. Good time to ask him. I never see him. It's like, oh, Krishna's here. I could ask him something. Does that make sense to you? Krishna's there. Oh, this is a great time to ask. Someone has the microphone, wants to ask a question. Yes.
Hare Krishna, there is one question. When I chant with a desire to have a particular service, how should I see it?
It's nice to, how should you see it or feel it or what? What do you mean by how should you see it? That it's good or bad?
The desire, yeah, the desire.
As long as that desire is energizing and helping your japa, then it's fine. You're talking about you don't have the service, but you want to have the service, or you have the service and you want to do it better, or both?
Both ways.
Yeah, that's fine. All the time, when I have difficult service, I pray to Krishna, please empower me. Please empower me to serve you. There's a prayer of one of the acharyas, make me qualified to serve you. That's one of his prayers. It's kind of like what you were saying. I don't feel qualified to be a servant. Hare Krishna, make me qualified to be a servant. Make me qualified to do my service. Because it's all in the mood of make me pleasing to you. So one aspect of make me pleasing to you, which is the real ego, is help me do my service to please you. So as long as we're in that mood of I want to please you, it's beautiful. You had something?
For chanting a good round, is it important how we hold our japmala during japa or even otherwise? If you can guide us something on holding the japmala.
Just with these two fingers.
No, at times I've seen people putting it here and japa. At times people do it here. Putting in what position when you're sitting and standing? At what?
Whatever works for you. There are no hard and fast rules. As long as it's not on the ground, not in the toilet. Sometimes devotees like to chant this because it's on their heart, so they feel something. It's not that strict, but basically Prabhupada said, sit straight, like that, be attentive, sit up, and so forth. You want to do another meditation? Oh, you have a question. All right. Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you mentioned about threshold. Means like we should have a threshold, like if our chanting is going below the threshold. So most of the time I don't even know whether my chanting is going below.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do I know what is a good threshold which can be observed or measured or whatever? Explicit something? Could you give
I don't think you can really understand the threshold until you chant good japa. Have you ever eaten something and you thought it was good until someone else made it who really knows how to make it, and then you realize what you thought was good wasn't? You ever had that experience? Or whatever it is, with food or something. You ever have that experience? Like someone does something so well that you realize, oh, that's how it's supposed to taste. So whatever I'm teaching you here today is meant to take you to that, oh, that's what japa is all about. I didn't know that. I thought I was doing okay. So once you have that, now you know where the threshold is, because now you know what good is. Until you know what is good is, how will you know what bad is? Right? Does that make sense to you?
It does, but what I'm thinking, still, till the time I get a taste for it, I will not know what is the threshold as well.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily you need a taste, but even if you execute it properly, even maybe there's not a great taste, but your execution, like I pray before I chant, I'm in the right mood, now I understand that I really need to connect to what the Maha Mantra means. I really need to open my heart. So maybe you're doing that and you're doing it well, but it's not like you're having this amazing taste, but at least you know that's what you're supposed to be doing. I think in this regard, it's like I'm teaching you how to play an instrument. Now tomorrow you may not play like Ravi Shankar, but I'm showing you this is how you hold it. Oh, I thought you're supposed to hold it like this. No, it's like this. Oh, I was playing it laying down. No, you're supposed to sit up. I was practicing at midnight. No, you should do it at 5 a.m. So all these things. So at least you know the process. And now you can say, my threshold goes down, I start lying on my back or whatever it is. And then the red flag, the alarms will go off in you. This is everyone's experience who's tried to improve their japa. Alarms go off when they're not chanting well, and they go off quite quickly. Like you know right away. Because especially if you try to do it well every day, when that one day you don't do it well, it's kind of obvious. I'm not doing it like I did the last week. Right? So I think maybe for you, focus on the things you've learned here as the standard, whether it's a high taste or not. And then when you drop from that standard, you'll realize I'm going below what I would consider proper japa. It's like we can call it pondraka japa, It looks like japa, but it's not. And that's really the problem, right? I chanted 16 rounds of pondraka japa. Prabhu, what's pondraka japa? It just looks like japa, but it's not. So now that you know more about what japa really is, it should be easier to recognize what it isn't. And like we were saying yesterday, it's not always going to be evaluated on the basis of taste, although it may be, but it's going to be more evaluated on the basis of effort. And really, the difference for a lot of devotees between good japa and not good is just effort, just that they're trying. And so what I'm trying to show you is not only try, but how to try, like what to try for. Because if you just try harder, like you try harder. I was once at a seminar, and he put. You have a pen? He put a pen on the floor, and he said, try to lift up the pen. Because he was trying to make a point, you can't try, you either lift it or, so try to lift up the pen, so, But the point is, if I'm going to try harder, which I should, I need to know what that looks like, what it means to try harder. Right? So now I think you know what it means to try harder, so you can try harder. And you can just say the threshold is how much I try. And if I get a little lazy with my japa, I've gone below my threshold. So that can be a very simple threshold. Forget that example. I don't think it worked. If you didn't understand it, don't worry. I can give you the example independent of what I was telling you. His point was, you either do something or you don't. You can't try. Sometimes you say, Prabhu, can you do this? And you say, I'll try. That could also mean I'm going to fail, because rather than saying, yeah, I'll do it. But the point I'm saying is that sometimes we have to say try because we're not in control of the result. So I can't produce nectar out of my lips, but I can try, right? So trying in this sense means, yes, I'm doing it. I just can't guarantee it the result is going to be. But I can do it. So that's why, that's a humble It's a humble way of doing a sankalpa, saying, I will try. Meaning, I am going to do it, I'm going to put my effort into it, but I don't know what's going to happen. And there's part of this, you ever heard this idea of, enjoy the ride, enjoy the process? You may not reach the goal, but enjoy the process. So part of learning to improve japa is, if it's not perfect, at least relish the fact that you're chanting and Krishna's there and you have this relationship, and although it's not as great as you want it to be, but appreciate it. Enjoy the ride. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. And if you try, it'll be good. Something good will come out of trying. Yes.
Thank you so much for these meditations.
I have a problem. She's going to get initiated. And I choose the names, and whenever I'm around someone who's get initiated, I almost call them their initiated name. I was about to call you your initiated name. Hare Krishna. Yes, go ahead.
During the first meditation, first round, okay, it began, and I was, okay, Krishna, let's talk. And I understood that it is very hard for me to concentrate, even for half a round, and I understood that it is my everyday problem, because it's hard for me to concentrate on children, on the person with whom I talk. Because so many deals, so many problems, so many tasks during the day, to-do list is very long. And so in the middle of the round, tasks just pointed out what I should have. Oh, I have forgotten this. Okay, I've forgotten to call somebody. But I even try. Okay, round will be over, and I will do everything. And then I understood that the second meditation, the second round when we chanted, it was like a key to the first.
Oh, good.
Yes, because when I began to think that I'm servant, and it is, I understood that in the first round I'm like controller. I try to control everything in my life.
Yeah.
And in the second round I'm servant, and everything becomes so plain that I'm servant and I can't do anything without you. And you are the ruler of my life, and without you I will not do it. And everything becomes so simple that you can't control anything, and you just let it go. And it was such a big pleasure. And I understood that in the first one, realization came to me that even in the beginning, when I'm just, the mood of servant is so unnatural for European people. You just try to enjoy everywhere. Even when you are a servant, you try to enjoy your service. But right. You should do it with self-respect and so on. Because in Russia also we are taught to be servant in another mood, not in mood of self-respect, but in mood of humiliation.
Really?
And when you do it with self-respect, with a lot of wisdom, with self-respect, it's something wonderful. And before it was contradiction for me. Now it was, you are my friend and I'm your servant, and it's so easy. You are my helper, the best helper. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. I will translate what she said into one sentence. We are servants, and it's easier to be a servant because we're servants. And we're not masters, and it's easier to be a servant because we're not masters. It's kind of like saying, it's easier to eat food when you put it in your mouth than you try to put it in your ear because it's meant to go in the mouth. And whenever I try to put it in my ear, it creates complications. Isn't it something like that? Thank you for that. That's beautiful. You wanted to share, yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I'm just in kindergarten in chanting, just started 2-3 months back.
Okay.
So still struggling, As you said, there are certain good experiences about you. So, my before going to asking my question, I just want to tell you that the mobile, there is a one feature is that when you play in initial days, when you play the sound, one sound, and you try to play in another application, another sound, then it will won't play. It will play if you play the second sound, then the first sound will be stopped.
Right, right.
Right, that was the feature initially. And if you are playing two sounds and suddenly you got the call, then all the both sound will be stopped and you will pick the call. And that is
Right,
the primary
right,
call.
right.
So my question is, even I'm chanting in morning, is it possible that if I'm doing any kind of work in daily routine, and I'm giving the focus, 100% focus on particular job, either I'm doing in for self-enjoyment, either I'm doing any task, is there any possibility that still the chanting is always running in mind, somewhere in the mind, in heart, or is this possible
Yeah.
or not?
If you're very elevated and you love Krishna, yes. Just like if a man falls in love, then 24/7 that girl's in his mind, no matter what he does. Because
So
that's
how,
what
how can we achieve that?
we can't yet. You just have to you have to start from the beginning, and that's a manifestation of love. You won't be able to stop chanting. But in our state, it's a practice. So you kind of have to force yourself. So you could force yourself a little bit, but it's a very elevated state to come there. So you would have to practice and force, and you would forget, and you would stop. And there's a story about a lady, I don't know when it took place, maybe the time just after Lord Chaitanya, and she came to a class and she was chanting, and it upset the speaker. Said, "Why are you chanting? I'm giving class. This is, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying." He got really upset with her. And she was very elevated devotee. She said, "I'm sorry, but I can't stop my tongue. It never stops chanting. So I tried to stop it, but it won't." She has a very elevated position. We heard a story. I'm trying to verify this story, but we've heard a story. Several devotees have verified the story, but not where it came from. That a man was in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was doing various tasks related to book publication and management of the temple. And after that was finished, the man said, "I thought a sadhu is always chanting." And Prabhupada said, come up to my desk, put your ear on my back." And the man heard, "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare." Now you could go around the temple and put your ear on everyone's back and see what you hear. Probably just boom, 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 boom. So I don't know how many people on the planet you would hear the Maha Mantra, but that's an elevated state. So whatever you would like to achieve in bhakti, you will achieve it, but you have to start from the beginning. And it can never be artificial. Those levels can never be artificial. There are always exceptions, but in general, we have to do the work. And when you love Krishna, what else would you be thinking? Right? It's so interesting, because if you study love in this world, it has all the same symptoms of love of Krishna, where when a boy and girl fall in love, all they do is think about one another and think about the name, Oh, Priyanka, Priyanka, Priyanka. Anka, Anka, Priya, Priya. Can't live without you, I think, So that all happens in a much more intense way in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Someone else? Yes?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam. In the first meditation where we had to hear the sound and feel that Krishna is here, I wanted to ask, that whether we just have to accept that Krishna is here,
Yeah, yeah.
or there is a struggle in
No, no.
feeling that Krishna is here.
No. Try to feel, but don't struggle, because you can't force it. So part of that meditation was more of accepting a reality that we don't experience. And by accepting a reality we don't experience, there's a chance we'll start to experience it, because we're acknowledging that this is real. Because sometimes we don't experience Krishna in the holy name, so we don't even acknowledge it, that he's there, because we think maybe he's there, but I don't experience it, so why should I be thinking that he's there? So this point was, no, take it on board that he's there and try to feel it. Just see how that works. Like remind yourself, actually Krishna's here, Hare Krishna. I don't feel it, but he is. And so sometimes at a certain point, you start to, it's kind of like intellectually feel it in a sense. Not like you're realizing Krishna, but you're like, yeah, he's here. I mean, his name is here and he's in his name, so he's here. And how much do I realize? I don't realize much, but I can realize at least a little bit. Otherwise, what else is there? Then you go into your mind. And all those things in your mind will be there instead of him. Hare Krishna. Here's another meditation for you, just to help you with this. If Krishna were not in his name, none of us could be purified by chanting his name. And if you don't believe me, chant Coca-Cola for a few weeks. See where that gets you. It goes like this. Get your beads out, follow me. Coca-Cola, 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 Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, 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 Coca-Cola. This doesn't seem to be working for me. Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca, yeah. But if you chant Krishna, it doesn't feel the same. I have a joke. We have some really weird names in America, like people used to be called these things like 200 years ago, I don't know how to... Do you have any names like in India that like, if someone had a name like that, you'd run away from them or something? Like, it's just like such a bad name. Do you have any names like that? Or a name from a few hundred years ago that's like weird and... What? Ravana? Yeah, okay. So, isn't it good that Krishna's name is not Ravana? Because you'd have to be chanting Ravana, 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 right? So isn't it nice that his name is Krishna? It's a nice name, right? Yeah. So when we chant that name, there is a different experience than chanting Coca-Cola or Ravana or whatever. Joe Patel, Joe Patel, Patel Patel, Joe, Joe. When you're what is Joe Patel? Like when you're Gujarati and you go to America and open a hotel, whatever your name was, it now becomes Joe. If it was Joe Teach, you're now Joe Patel. And if it was Sankarshan, it's now Sam. Sam Patel, Sam Patel, Patel Patel, Sam, Sam, Sam. So I think it's obvious that these names are not ordinary. And if they were ordinary, none of us would feel anything and none of us would become purified. So Krishna is present. So these kinds of meditations, like, okay, that all makes sense, enables you to just allow yourself to try to experience, you can't force it, but to allow yourself to just make sense of how Krishna's there and try to feel it. Just like open your heart to feel his presence. That's all you can do. Hare Krishna, just feel it. When you chant, it's vibrating in your body. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Feel the vibration. You can feel it when you chant Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Radha and Krishna are there. Just open up. Feel their presence. Whatever that means for you. Just allow yourself to feel it. Sometimes devotees say, I can't feel anything. And I think the problem is you can feel it, but you're not aware of the feeling. So I'll say, well, just open yourself and feel it. Feel it in your body. Feel it in your ears. Feel it in your heart. And when you start doing that, you'll think, oh yeah, I can feel that. So you just weren't present to what what you were feeling. You weren't conscious of it, right? Hare Krishna. I think we've gone overtime, no? Yes. Anyway, if you need to leave, go. If you want to stay, stay. I'm famous for going overtime. So I'm just doing what I normally do. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Firstly, I love the sessions, the
Thank you.
3-day sessions,
Thank
and
you.
I found a drastic change in my japa.
Fantastic.
So I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, actually when I chant, I identify myself with my bodily identification. Like it's very difficult for me to understand that I am the soul
Yes.
and not the body.
Yes.
So what can I do for it?
Get up early in the morning. Do devotional service. Because, I'll tell you a story first. Who wants to hear a story? It's like a similar dilemma. This story deals with a similar dilemma. And one devotee was asking Prabhupada, if I go out on book distribution every day, and he was doing that, will I become self-realized? And Prabhupada said, he turned it around, he said, well, how could you go out every day if you're not self-realized? And he wasn't feeling self-realized, but what did Prabhupada mean? He meant, if you solely identify with your body, you wouldn't go on Sankirtan. So you're sitting in here learning about Japa. If you solely identified with your body, you'd be at the mall buying something, or going to a movie, or whatever, going to a restaurant. So we identify with the body, but at the same time, we identify with the soul in relation to service. So I was saying get up early like that, because why would you get up early if you're the body? You get up late. It's Saturday, you don't have to do anything. Okay, I get to sleep late, but because you're a devotee, you get up early because you realize you're not the body. Even though you don't think you realize you're not the body, you do realize you're not the body because you're doing devotional service, which is only what you would do if you realize you're not the body. So maybe it's not so much I realize I'm not the body, but I realize that I'm the soul as a servant of Krishna. So that way, it's not as bad as you think. Right? And Prabhupada put more emphasis on serving Krishna and doing the austerities of devotional service than like the actual realization that I'm not the body. He wanted to see it manifested in action. So, you make some sacrifice for service. You stay up late one evening preparing for a festival. That's a manifestation of you're not the body. Right? Or, we say, can you come and do cooking? He said, no, I'm not the body. I'm meditating on I'm having Brahman realization. I can't do any service. Could you imagine telling Prabhupada? Prabhupada's asking you to do service and you're saying, no, I'm Brahman realized. I don't do anything. No, the fact that you do service and you make that sacrifice means you realize you're not the body. At least you realize you're a servant, which is the real realization. And the more you continue, the more you realize it. It's just natural. It's like a lot of things that you want, they'll just come, but you have to do this steadily and not become discouraged when they don't come as quickly as you would like, but they will come as long as you stick around long enough. And if you give up on the way, then you don't, you dropped out of school and all your friends graduated, and if you would have stayed in school, you would have graduated also, but you drop out of bhakti, you'll see your friends go back to Godhead, and you won't. So it'll happen slowly over time. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Where? Okay.
I would like to share my realization.
Okay, please. Yes.
From many years I have been chanting Hare Krishna. It was completely ritualistic and mechanically. But today at Brahma Muhurat, I literally cried due to at the time of chanting. And I'm really grateful to the Krishna and Prabhupada sent you to us in our life. And I would like to ask one thing that whenever I go to the bed, I try to chant in my mind. And
When you go where?
At the bed.
Oh, to bed. Yeah.
So it's many times it become really irritating, and many times I didn't get sleep properly. So I have to focus on my breath, and then I get the deep sleep. So how can I
You have to do what? Focus on
breath.
breath. Oh, you're chanting in your mind, focusing on your breath when you're taking rest. And the problem is?
I didn't get sleep. I have to stop my chanting and focus on my breath.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the problem is I fall asleep. Well, laying down and chanting in your mind is not really a recommended process. So, if you have difficulty doing something that's not recommended, I guess it's not that bad because we're not even supposed to do that. So don't worry about it. I've gone to sleep with my beads, and when I get tired, I just put them down. Yeah, don't worry about it. Chanting in the mind is for very advanced devotees also, generally. Can we do this meditation now? Do we have time? Yes? Okay. I want to end with this meditation because I think it's really kind of gets to the heart of what I think is the deeper moods of chanting in our level. Higher levels of moods are, more rasik and esoteric. But I think this is good for our level. So we just want to see that. We'll have to see if we can hear this. Oh, can you give me your, we have Wi-Fi in here? Ek minute, Wi-Fi. You have different time in India than we have in America. Like Einstein said, time is relative. How long is 1 minute in India? Who can tell me? It's 2 minutes, right? Or 4 minutes? So it's not playing. Bring my heart closer to your heart. Can you make it louder? The devotee prays. Can we turn this off? Bring my heart closer to your heart. Praise. Please bring my heart closer to your heart. My heart is far from you. My heart lives independently of you. My heart lives in its own world, with its own desires. Desires separate from your desires. I want to make my heart one with your heart. I want your desires to be my desires. I want our hearts to be one. I want that you bring my heart to your heart, so that what you want is what I want. That what you desire is what I desire. That what you feel is what I feel. I pray that your mission on earth becomes my mission on earth. That the mission of Srila Prabhupada and all the past acharyas becomes my mission. That your heart, your compassion for the fallen souls becomes my heart and my compassion. That your desire for all living beings to become Krishna conscious becomes my desire, becomes my life's mission. Please take my heart and do with my heart whatever you desire. I pray to give it to you. I pray to let go of my independence. I pray to exist for your will as your surrendered instrument in your service. I pray that whatever you want and desire for me, I will want and desire for myself. Please bring my heart closer to your heart. So that is the mood and essence we should be cultivating, and that is the goal as well. And I have a new thought now, that you're hungry, tired, and hot. And I think we should end now, because I've gone 45 minutes over time. So I just wanted to share this with you. And if we can get your email addresses, we can send you follow-up videos and meditations that you can use. So if that can be arranged somehow or other. Maybe we have your emails already. We will do that and keep you inspired. Thank you very much for coming. It was nice to be here, my first time with all of you. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So let us thank His Grace Mahatma Prabhu for spending with us 3 very valuable sessions right from Friday. And I'm sure all of us benefited and will continue to incorporate these wonderful meditations in our chanting. So we would like to thank His Grace Mahatma Prabhu for kindly coming to ISKCON BCEC and guiding us in our daily chanting by loudly chanting once Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
I want to give you a gift. And you don't have to stay the whole time, but I produced, some of you have heard my Brahma Samhita. I produced another version of 2023, I think we released it. And a lot of devotees haven't heard it. And we renamed it Primeval Lord. So if you Google Primeval Lord online, you'll find it. So I just wanted to play it while you're leaving, or you can stay as you like. You can sing along if you want.
Chintamani prakara sarma sukapa vriksha Laksha piteshu sarabhira vipalyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shakta Samrama Sevimanam Govindam Hari Purusham Namaha Venam Kumaravinda Dalam Varhavatam Samasitam Mudashandaram Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Visesh Sobam Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Gala Savana Mala Vamshi Adnagadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasham Shaimam Krivanna Lalitani Yatha Prakasham Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yangani Jasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Juganti Ananda Chinmaya Sarujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Haritam Achyutam Radhim Anantarupam Haryam Purana Purusam Navayovanamscha Vereshu Dulabam Adulabam Atma Bhakta Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Antastu Koti Shatavatsara Sambragamya Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam Subhyasti Yapa Varisinna Vichinta Tate Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekapya Sora Chaitam Jagadanta Kautim Yat Chakshirasti Jagaranta Chayayaranta Andantarasta Paramana Chayantarastam Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
We have, Hare Krishna. We have USB sticks which has this kirtan and all the CDs I've ever released. It has 28 guided meditations to help you with japa. It has, I think, 5 or 6 self-care meditations. It's got 16 philosophical meditations which explain our philosophy through guided meditations. It's got my Japa affirmations book, the whole book that you buy, that little red on audio, and I don't know, 70 hours actually, and maybe 30 of that is kirtan. So that's available at the table. If there is a table, it's available there. And then the lectures and courses are available on another USB stick. And we have put the Japa course, which you had a part of here today, we've put it online as a self-paced course. And so when we get your email addresses, we will provide that information for you. And once you take that course, you can review it the rest of your life because you'll have access to it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.